Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the Professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. Geeky Kool presents Professor and Ace.
Hey everybody, welcome to Geeky KOOL presents Professor and Ace, episode number 40.
40!
40, I know.
Like, it's almost as old as I am. Oh.
You're almost 40 episodes old?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
You know what? That would be beautiful. Let's just start calling years episodes.
I like that.
Yes.
I have no issues with that.
It's a new thing.
It is. It is.
I'm 45 episodes.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I like that. Well, today we've got a special guest with us. We've got Ashley here with us. Ashley is author, poet, artist, Geeky KOOL contributor. She's a little bit of everything. She's awesome, and we're glad. Yeah, we're happy to have you with us, Ashley. So thank you for joining us.
The best part is she's a great person.
That's true. I agree. She puts up with John.
Thank you, guys.
So, all right. So Ashley, and we set this up because we wanted to have a little special time. And being an author, you've got some books, and we had asked you to do some readings for us. So we're going to have you do that. We also have some of your artwork today that is for sale, and we'll be putting those up and having you guys look at that. So those of you that are watching live, thank you so much for watching live with us, and make sure you look at the art and you find one you want. Be quick to buy it, because once we start putting these up, first come, first serve on doing that. We've already got a couple of comments, and let's not forget we're giving away a couple of books for people in the U.S., and one of the ways to do that is to set a comment out. So we've already got a couple. Let's see what we've got going on here. Hey, hi, Jesse. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. Somebody's saying here, hey, I'm not that bad. I'm guessing that.
That would be John.
Yep.
Yeah, just it'd be John there. Yeah, you're not John. You know I love you, my friend. So, all right.
Listen,
Posting is Geeky KOOL. Yeah, we got to notice that. I'm not sure how, but you got that going there. Yeah, we're all right with that. If we start getting different people posting as Geeky KOOL, that gets confusing, but that's all right. So we have three.
Jumping on and John's on. That's confusing, and it's like, who am I talking to?
That will be confusing if we don't know who we're talking to, but that's all right. We'll figure that out. Just make sure you post in there who you are if you're posting as Geeky KOOL. But we're going to get ourselves started here because we have a great episode, a very special, exciting episode. So, Ashley, do you want to start us off with some reading?
Yes. But before that, I would like to show the book that I'm giving away so that people can actually see the physical copy.
Yes.
This is the... If I can get it in the camera. There we go. This is the first book that I was published in. It's called An Exaltation of Shadows, Volume 2. It's got my poetry in the back. It also has a lot of other great poets. It's really good for all of us who are horror fans, who like dark poetry, stuff like that. It's definitely not your run-of-the-mill type of poetry book.
Cobb, kind of like
very
freaky stuff. You know me, I'm totally about the macabre, so you know.
So this would be a great late Valentine's gift for those that are looking for that romantic poetry to read to their significant others.
Well, there are some that are slightly romantic, but as an overall, this is definitely for the goth girlfriend.
I was gonna say, like as that, you know, the 80s goth girl, I would.
Yeah.
90s goth girl right here.
I'm just saying, it's just like, yes, please.
See, there you go. Actually, I was reading how a good horror movie or horror story will actually get the romantic juices flowing even better. So there you guys go. If you're wanting something to get a significant other to get some juices going, this may be the way to go. So And we do have links to the book and other books for Ashley below in our YouTube video. So check those out, guys. If you win or not, make sure to check those out. Check out her different books. And
some great ones. She's like, I love your doll story. That's my favorite story of yours.
It's funny you mentioned that one because that's going to be the one that I'm reading from tonight. Because I know you and Larry love that one so much.
That is like, I love that whole book. I love that whole book. But that one, I was like, yes, I really. It's one of those stories that just draws you in, and makes you think about all of these actions that people take in their life, and how it like actually affects other people in a weird, weird way, how people internalize stuff. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. So yay. Thank you.
Well, let's get it going then.
Okay. Like I said, since you guys liked it so much, I will start with Poor Dolly. I'll probably do some of my other poems too, since Poor Dolly is very short. Very short.
And your other poetry is really great also. So, I mean, everything in that book is amazing. The Poor Dolly just really kind of grabs your attention. The last story is really cool too. I actually really love that also, but Dolly just sticks with you. So,
all right. So here we go. This is the beginning of Poor Dolly, which is the short story in the beginning of Lament at Midnight. It's dusty up here on the shelf. A thick layer of grime covers everything, including myself. It wasn't always this bad. Years ago, my parents would clean this space and then put me back up here. They had not bothered with this simple action for years. I tried to keep my thoughts organized. I tried to save myself from the madness that had consumed my small family. I blamed the ever-encroaching darkness that had invaded our house. I hear the fights coming from the kitchen every night, the single ceiling lamp casting a curse on our small, once happy home. I remember the sign on the bin I was held in, only a few other toys. We had a large sign marked in red hanging above us that said, "Bargain, reduced price." I don't know how long I was in that bin. How many days or months? Only that by the time Mommy and Daddy found me in the back, covered in dust, dozens had walked past, and I was one of the last 2 dolls left. I cried with joy as I was carried out, and the automatic doors slid open to a world I'd never seen. To this day, I don't know if the other doll left. I try not to think of the worst. There was a rumor that dolls without homes get destroyed. I scarcely recall the other doll now, only that she had light barrel button eyes. They knew I was different when they found me. I wasn't like the others. My left leg was already losing some of its stuffing, but Daddy fell in love with me. Mommy liked my cheap price. The bright half-off tag showed clearly on my arm. My original dress was white with orange flowers on it that matched my hair. I do remember that. The lace was torn on it, and Mommy was appalled. When they took me home, Daddy made me a new white dress with pretty blue ribbon belt. It was yellow when it was lost. That had to be over a decade ago. Those old memories of mine are hard for me to bring up. It was easier for me to remember Mommy and Daddy's friends and relatives. Why would they pick me? Don't I require so much work? I'm already broken, and I need too much time. These were common questions in our house. Daddy would stop them all. He'd pick me up and say I was the smartest one. I was so much more than their dolls and bears were, and if they couldn't see that, they could leave. He'd bring me to my room and tuck me into my pink and white daybed, singing me to sleep. His voice was always enchanting, lulling me into my dreams with ease every night. Mommy would call that spoiling. I never understood why. But Mommy always got mad at Daddy when Daddy was with me. The way he'd tuck my hair behind my ear or spin me around in his arms set her off. I tried to be nice to Mommy. I wanted her to play with me, but Mommy was always away, even more than Daddy sometimes. When I was first brought home, I used to stay with a lot of people. I can't remember their names. Some of Mommy's people were nice and put my hair up in pigtails. Others would throw me on the ground and walk away, ignoring me until Mommy came home again. All the other toys laughed when I told them this at school. I was never believed. My dress was too pretty. My leg had been re-sewn by that time. Even the teacher started to say I was lying when I was in class. Some mommies and daddies have to work all the time. Not all can stay home, I was reminded. Slowly, I noticed a shadow forming in our small house. My parents stayed away longer and longer. They started fighting when they came home. I'd stare at them from the minuscule hallway, their loud voices growing each week. The shadow came closer into the house, creeping. I'd curl my entire body up to keep away from it, inching ever closer from the back door. It seemed I was the only one who noticed this new intruder. I tried to warn Daddy, but he pushed me away and started arguing with Mommy again. Then, one day when I came home from school, I went to my room and found it empty. All of my toys and clothes had been tossed out. The light blue color had been repainted white, and a work desk stood where my bed was supposed to be. "We need this room for work," Daddy stated. Mommy picked me up and placed me on the shelf in the living room. Tears fell from my green button eyes, but they didn't notice me crying. They didn't even turn around. By that night, the shadow had taken over all of the kitchen and the hallway. I shivered in fear. The closer it came into the house, the colder the air would get. The shelf was hard and far away. I couldn't see Mommy and Daddy fight in the kitchen anymore, but I could still hear them. Mommy would shout at Daddy, and he would throw plates at the wall. It was almost every night that they would scream at each other. They started to forget about me. My dress yellowed at the fringes. My blue ribbon fell off. Slowly, my appearance deteriorated more. No one noticed except to criticize. Every day, I would hear the same comments. I was a freak, different, insane, and a liar. My dress was now black, a color that I had grown to love, even while it resembled the monster shadow dwelling in the house. Some days, I wished it would destroy me the way it was destroying my Mommy and Daddy, especially Mommy. There were times, years before, when she used to be somewhat fun and take me places. It seemed like now she only looked to criticize and harass me. School became worse for me, so I finally just stopped talking to those around me. I was the liar, after all. Classmates would throw things at me, hit my head with the seatbelt buckle on the bus. None of this was ever seen by the adults, so they told me to shut up. I was the target of my classmates and ignored at home, my daily cycle. I thought things might level out for once until my father came home from his new job in New York City while my mom had gotten a job in Connecticut. Because they didn't want me to move to a different school and fight for custody, I would stay where I was with a family friend. Had it been my choice, I would have joined my father in New York. So once again, I was uprooted. Once more, I was forced to stay with others. I vividly remember that while their dolls each had a room for themselves, I was given a closet away from everybody else. Their dolls used to brag about their fancy clothes and new hair, and they would show off their many toys to me while sitting in silence. I was strange and unwanted. I used to think of these two other dolls as friends before they mocked me, before I had to stay with them for the better part of 2 years. Waiting for the rare days that I could go home, back to my shelf. Dusty and ignored as I was, it was still better than what I endured while my parents were away. I stopped thinking of them as Mommy and Daddy, would barely think of them at all, until one came to bring me back home. By then, the shadows had completely covered the place, and their shouting would alert even the neighbors. Imprecating the worst had not yet begun. Mommy had a friend come over often. He noticed me when no one else would. The man cleaned me off and would ask Mommy if he could take me places, but always when Daddy wasn't around. He bought me a new ribbon for my dress, a new hairband. I used to like him. He'd do whatever I wanted. I felt loved again. We'd go to the movies, to the mall, and he'd spoil me with lots of presents. I thought, again, nothing more could go wrong, until he started touching me. He'd wait for Mommy and Daddy to be gone, then slide his hands all over me. Once, he laid over me on my parents' bed, his weight crushing mine. I'd been told I was lucky that nothing worse from him happened. Why didn't I tell? Why didn't I scream? Run to my family for help. I was already branded. A permanent mark remained on me. Even after all these years, I am still wholly insane. And everything I've ever said is a lie. It's invisible to those outside my family, so don't try to look. But it's right there on my arm. I can see it every time I'm in front of a mirror. Blackened, scarred. The tattoo stands on the top of my shoulder, forever there when my mind wanders to it. "Dolly, why do you do this to me?" my mother repeatedly screamed. "I don't believe you. I was there. Father would argue. Once that brand embedded on my body, I stood no chance for help. I'd stay silent, and when my mother's friend left for good, I never mentioned him again. My mother would bring him up for a while, confused by my determined silence. I wanted to forget, take shelter on my cold, worthless shelf, away from everyone, where they could ignore me once more. These moving shadows taunted me, bombarded me with images of my mother and father had done, their neglect, their criticism, and others' abuse that they didn't stop. Images would swarm on the hardwood floor, and the shadows would laugh, pulling back. I was young and broken. The shadows pulled back. Again, swirling shadows, leaving me in the arms of my mother's detestable companion. Swirling shadows, leaving me in the house, where I didn't exist for years, mocked by dolls that were still being cared for. Barrage after barrage. I know not when I was finally left to my own devices. I know not when my family abandoned the house for good. What I do know is that my shelf broke under the weight of these demonic vessels. I crashed on the floor, and my legs ripped from my torso. My dress, bare strips no longer fit for use. I lay inert, the shadows cackling around my broken, soft frame, sure that my end was imminent. The wood of the shelf had crashed on the top of me in the fall. I know not how long I lay there. The slow, creeping obscurity I had been tortured with my entire life had finally succeeded. My left eye had been ripped out, and my body coursed with agony. I succumbed to the final height of this lunacy. Let it finish me. Let the light die. There would be no notice of this wretched, frantic demise. Light seeped in waves, tempting my broken psyche with thoughts of freedom. Initially, I ignored the flicker of moving light, coming from under the door. My decent eye noticed motion. The shadows were continuing to persecute me. A blow, thunderous and deafening, splintered the fragile wood paneling of the door and destroyed the hinges. I felt, more than I saw, the new toys coming to me. With care I couldn't fathom. They raised my distorted frame off the hardwood floor. I noticed their hands felt roughed, and without asking, I was carried out of the darkness and patched up by anonymous rescuers. The one-eyed, disgraced figure of the teddy bear who held me looked saddened. Before I left my desolate childhood behind, I looked back to the wall, where I had been stored for almost 2 decades. There, stained in red, my words etched forever. The ward's starch-white walls sprang into action. The staff raced down the long corridor towards the room where the buzzing originated. They didn't know what they would find, or how bad the patient's state would be once the door opened. They noticed that the young woman, patient 238, was motionless on the tile, a small pool of blood around her emaciated frame. The orderlies carried the unconscious young woman out of her room. The head nurse rushed over to check the damage she had done to her arms this time. There were a few scratches, but nothing permanently damaged. She was wheeled away towards the infirmary for observation, but there was no need to transport her to another hospital. "What's the story with that girl?" a young greenhorn asked his companions. "We don't know," the head nurse replied. "She was found in a condemned building about 12 years ago. She barely eats, seldom sleeps. All she does is write. We've been calling her Dolly since she arrived," the nurse explained. The young orderly turned back and stared in dismay at what was written on the wall. Fingers used as a pen, blood used as ink. Poor Dolly, stashed away, high on the shelf where no one dares play. Her dress has dulled yellow, it now shows her age, as she sits in the corner on the dusty shelf, staring amazed. Her left button eye, lost long ago to time. Her owners now fight and fight over who will take her when they leave the house behind. At the knee, her leg is falling off. The stuffing slowly drifts down towards the floor. It's a constant reminder that she may soon be no more. She tries to remember a time when they cared, but the truth is, to the other dolls, she always lacked when compared. Even when she was brought home, she needed to be stitched, her left button eye needing tending. There was always something on her that needed to be fixed. There she was, placed high atop the shelf, no more pillows or couches for her to enjoy, no more comfy places for her to rest herself. In the corner on the forgotten shelf, she resides covered in dust, in dirt, every stitch loose. Her cute dress, now yellow, once came with shoes, which had been tossed out ages ago. Something had changed when her owners threw out her shoes. She knew the day would come. It was closing and fast. What she didn't expect was for Mommy and Daddy to tear off her limbs in their fight, to keep her from the other's cold grasp. Be gentle with me, she thought, while their harsh movements broke her delicate seams, undoing all of the old sewn-in knots. Throw it away, that doll was worth nothing anymore, the people around told her parents when she fell hard onto the floor. Her damaged leg torn to shreds, her arms had fallen off. She thought she'd be better off dead. They left the house, empty and still, leaving nothing except poor Dolly, on the floor laying there, crying with no will. For months she cried, asking heaven why, when suddenly ugly monsters crept into the forgotten house, watching intently as she moved her head and sighed. These broken toys, also forgotten, had fixed themselves up. Using mismatched parts and buttons, they handed her stuffing and taught her how to sew. Even went so far as fixing her face, though it does show. Her limbs she replaced, now she stands on her own. With other mismatched toys, these dolls have no need for another home. Dolly smiled as she looked in the mirror. Although her owners could no longer recognize her, this was the best she'd felt in years, no matter what she heard. Okay, that is the end of Poor Dolly, and my screen seems to have frozen.
Oh.
Well, we heard you the whole time, so I mean, it was good. So that was great. Thank you for sharing that, Ashley. That's a very moving story.
Yeah.
I'm also surprised you like it so much.
I know when I got the copy of your book, Larry got it for me, and I got it and I read it. I read it the whole book in like I read really quickly, so I read it in like 30 minutes, and I had to go back and reread Poor Dolly, and I read it actually in that day like 5 times, just because I was picking up on all of the little things that I thought I might have missed on it, and that always is when I know that I really like something. I reread it over and over again. So many times you get a book and you read it once and you're like, okay, I got the story. But if you have a story that you reread over and over again, pick up on those little things, that's where I always go. That's why I have my favorite books that I reread like every year,
I have the same thing, so it's not just you.
Sometimes us nerdy people, we think we're all alone in the world.
That's true. We do have a comment from Jesse. So great reading, and I agree, Jesse. That was. Well, yeah. Well, I agree. It's very emotionally impacting. It's just you're like, oh my gosh, what? Trying.
The one she's talking about is the last one. It's the last one of the
it
book.
Is, yeah.
It's really good. It's very interesting, and that way you guys all have a reason to buy her book.
That is a great plan, and I just skipped to a page. Jesse, this is one of your favorites. This is actually a double poem. The first one is called Sleepless. The second one is called Rest, and the two are supposed to be read together. Okay, so the first one, Sleepless. The cogs in my head spin away endless hours until my bearings are lost to this relentless binding power. That's the first part. Second part is Rest. Ease and peace of mind, I find myself looking farther and farther to find. Make my body boneless, put my heart to rest. For just one night, I wish to enjoy the softness of my bed.
Like that.
I do too. Yeah.
I felt those things.
Exactly.
Mind won't stop when your anxiety is high and your nerves are going and your mind I seriously always like long for those moments when you see people like just fall asleep. Like they lay down and they just fall asleep.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I do, but that's because I stay up way too late and exhaust myself. Yeah. And I saw a thing recently that talked about it being revenge sleep, because you're taking revenge because other parts of your life are out of control. So you stay up later than you should because that's your time, and you're taking it back even if you shouldn't. And I'm like,
those,
oh yeah.
Those
That is definitely not me.
Ashley's like, just I have insomnia.
Yeah, no, I have severe insomnia. Like, the longest I've stayed awake without any sleep at all was 4 days.
It sounds
It's a
like
long time.
Yeah. He does that. I used to. The older I get, the more I realize that my body hates me if I do that, and so I will force myself to go lay down. And even if it takes sometimes it takes 4 to 6 hours for me to actually fall asleep, and then I have to be up in an hour. I actually just make myself physically lay there, because even if I don't sleep, my body's at rest, and it's. But when I was in my 20s and 30s, seriously, there were days that I would go without sleep just because I couldn't, I just couldn't. It wouldn't happen. So I feel that, Ashley.
I mean, fun fact, some of my short stories, including a short story that is in the second Lament of Midnight, were written on pure insomnia, and I don't remember writing them.
Fine. I want to be that talented without remembering. Oh my God.
Sometimes you got to relax to do it, and if your brain is just done, you can just.
Oh wait, that takes you have to relax. You had me I can't do that.
I get it. Yeah. All right, Jessie did have a couple more comments here for us. Well, actually, she said, I said, great reading, awesome, and then loving the rhythm of the words and the imagery. I agree. Well, AJ, you were talking about reading it quickly. I did the other way, and part of it's because I'm not only am I ADD, but I'm also dyslexic, so it can take me a little longer to process. And with poetry, I just go longer. It just takes me longer because I'm trying to really fully understand what's going on. And when I write poetry, I spend forever writing poetry because it's the same thing. I want to get it to say the right things, and so I'm trying to look at the word usage and trying to think through all of this. I'm like, oh, okay, wow, okay, that's a great way to say that. Okay,
right. Because poetry, unlike a lot of other writing styles, poetry is about imagery.
Yes.
In the words that you use to craft that imagery it's a little bit more difficult to write. I know people who write novels who are like, I can't write a poem for the life of me. They just can't, because
see, I have the opposite problem.
But that is what makes you a poet. And
right.
The thing is and people are always like, I know when I worked in a bookstore, and people would come in and they would be like, oh, I want a book of poetry, and I had one person who worked with me, and they would say stuff like, well, that's not really a book. And I'm like, you have no idea how hard it is to write a poem that not only masters that imagery, but that is so well written that it is not only published, but people want to read it.
Right.
And that takes talent. Writing a novel it takes talent too. I've been writing mine for years, and that's never happening. Larry's the same way.
Mine's going to happen. It just hasn't yet.
Won't. So. Mine will. I'm already I'm like, it's a fun thing I do once in a while. It's all good. But writing is just such an emotional experience, and poetry is like the bare bones of that experience. Yeah. It is literally one of the hardest things. I know many writers, like I said, who tell me they can't write poetry that they feel proud of or that they want to share with the world. So I applaud you, Ashley, because that's a difficult thing to do. My son writes poetry. I do not. I have, but not well.
Well, I was always definitely the star of the English class when I was growing up, so I think that had a lot to do with it. Yeah. To be fair, I can't write a haiku to save my life.
Haikus are, no. Poetry is the bare bones of writing. Haikus are like the bone marrow of writing. They're like the thing you have to really, you have to love that art form of a haiku, in order to get it. I always have that, like, it doesn't, I want more.
Yeah.
Haikus are very specific in their form, and I'm not. I'm more chaos than
I'm with you. Yeah.
So I feel that, Ashley. I get it.
No joke. Every English class I had growing up from elementary to high school, I always failed the English section where we did haikus. Every time.
That's the thing. No, if anybody writes haikus and they're good at it, that's talent. And, like, I don't want my writing to be about counting. It's writing, it's not math.
No, I get that. Yeah. But I want it to have a flow, though. A flow, but I don't want to have to count. Right, yeah.
Right, I don't.
Yeah, I'm with you there, yeah.
Like, I don't want English to interrupt, math to interrupt English. I don't want to be, like, going 1, 2. So
the interesting thing, because my experience is completely opposite with English because of my dyslexia, which I didn't know I had until much later. Especially any English that included spelling tests, I would study for days and hours each day with my parents and fail it on that Friday every time. And it was just this one disappointment after another because I was always transposing letters and everything else.
Well, and when we were growing up, like, dyslexia was known, but it wasn't something that was commonplace that people thought, oh, he has dyslexia or she has dyslexia. It was like stuttering.
Right.
And back when I was in school, there were guys and girls that I went to school with that stuttered, and they were put into, special ed classes because they stuttered. They weren't stupid. They need special teachers. They didn't have any disabilities that would require extra help. They literally just stuttered. But, thank goodness that over the years, the education system has, like, acknowledged and understands that even people who have the special needs for learning, they don't have to be pulled out of a class and put into a special class.
Right, and be taken out in front of everybody. That was always, yeah.
I was taken out in front of everybody for a totally different reason, and if I say it, it sounds braggy, and I don't want to say it.
I was taken out for speech and then also for some other stuff. But so now when I hit junior year of high school, and I went to this little small school, so we had one high school English teacher. So I mean that's how my high school had 125 kids total.
My graduating class had about 140, I think.
Yeah, right. So that's what I'm saying. And so tiniest little thing. So we had one high school teacher, and I hated her freshman and sophomore year because, all the spelling tests and everything else, and I was just like, But then she actually is the one which encouraged me to write, because we were in a class, and she's like, "You've got a real talent here. You need to focus on that and drama." She was also the drama. We didn't actually have any official drama classes, but she would put on the plays in the spring and the fall, and she really encouraged me there. So she went from being this teacher I just was like, oh my gosh, to this teacher who's like, we found your place, and I'm going to encourage you. And she actually made a huge difference in my life because of her encouragement. It actually got me out of being stuck in this small town the rest of my life. So. Do
you recognize the storyteller and not just the mixing up letters and stuff like that?
Right.
The talent behind it. Right. So actually, who do you have, like, somebody in your life that you really feel like pushed you to write more and, like?
I had the opposite experience. This is going to sound weird, but growing up when I was in school, I was always told, you are an excellent writer, but you're so dark, you will never be published. Every English teacher I had from middle school to high school told me the exact same thing. You'll never be published. You're too dark.
Had they never read Poe? Like,
right.
Well, that was the funny part, is that Edgar Allan Poe was introduced to me through middle school, and I even got put in the psych ward by my school for my writing because they thought that I was going to harm the school. It was a weird situation. So I ended up writing more out of spite. Like, this is my revenge.
Right? The thing is like Gothic literature, Gothic poems, Gothic literature have been around for centuries, and there is this, I guess, thought process that if you write stuff like that, that you are demented in some sort of way. But the truth is, it's very cathartic. It's very much like you're allowed. I find that Gothic writers or people who write horror tend to be people, one, I like to be around a lot, because I do have that macabre kind of sensibility. You know, I enjoy it. But they also tend to be like really sweet, kind people. And I feel like your writing is not you. It's parts of you, but it's not like, you know, if somebody writes about crime all the time, they don't want to go commit these crimes. They're writing about crime. It's something they enjoy learning about, or something that I watch serial killers on TV all the time. It doesn't mean I'm going to go out and kill people.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen those heads in your house.
They're dolls.
Oh, that's true.
Dolls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Human heads in my house. Unless they touch the body and fist me. Okay.
But I mean, yeah, that's what I went through growing up, and I ended up writing more out of spite. But it did cause me to hide a lot of my writing. Like I would have books and short stories and stuff that I would literally hide under my bed from my parents. And oddly enough, I took a shot in the dark with my current publisher, Dark Gatekeeper Gaming, and it worked out. I honestly expected to hear back from him like, "Oh, you suck. This isn't what I'm looking for. Never write again," because that's all that I'd heard my entire life. Right. And then he emailed me back saying, "This is great. Give me 10 more in a month."
And you're
like, what? That was interesting. 10 more in 3 weeks. Okay.
Sure.
Deadlines. I'm in the world of deadlines and scary things.
It's true.
That's awesome, though, Ashley, that you could turn the adversity of like people saying what you were writing wasn't, you know, not that it wasn't good. Like they kept saying you're a good writer. It's just too dark. Nobody's going to want to read that. And you turn that into, look at this. I have a published book. People want to read this. And there's like an audience for everything. Everything.
Yeah.
In this world. To pigeonhole a child and tell them that just because their creativity isn't what you expect of them, or what, you know, and it's probably one also because you're female. I know that sounds bad, but like, you're a little girl, you're not supposed to have these dark feelings and these dark. Did you get that? Because I feel like
I did kind of get that a little bit, but also I grew up in a very like wonder-bred suburban neighborhood where you were supposed to fit into what everybody else was doing. And I was Edward Scissorhands walking around the neighborhood. Like I was the exact opposite of what they wanted, which I think was the other half of it.
But yeah, they were scared of him, but they partially embraced him. Just embrace the weird.
Right.
Embrace the weird.
I completely understand that. I was definitely a weird kid in my little town, so I was the weird one who liked the geek stuff, the comic books, that wasn't good at sports, that that didn't want to talk about tractors. I don't know. So
I mean, my town was pretty big. It was a pretty big suburb in South Jersey. So that's honestly half of it. It was just, I mean, your stereotypical conservative white bread town where if you didn't, like football, or you weren't a princess or a cheerleader, or you weren't part of the drama club, then in their eyes you didn't exist. So I think that was really like 80% of it, and then 20% would be I was a girl.
Right. I mean, it's a thing, and it shouldn't be a thing, but I know from my life experience that it is. It's just how a lot of people think is, okay, when you have a child, any child that is drawing dark things or writing poetry or stories that have like monsters and stuff, you like, you know, you're like, oh, there must be something wrong. But if it's a girl, I feel like they're like, why aren't you writing stories about princesses?
Yeah, sure. I'll write a story about a princess.
I remember growing up, and I remember going to a slumber party. I think I was like 7 or 8. I didn't have a lot of friends because I was like the fat nerdy girl, but I had a couple, and I was at a slumber party, and the mom was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna watch, I think it was Cinderella, and I was like, oh, we're gonna watch Lady Tree.
I always liked the cat. I liked the fact that they named the cat Lucifer.
Yep.
I was like, we're gonna, and she was like, you do realize that that's the bad guy? And I was like, no, but the bad guys are the most interesting.
And like, that's true.
They have the best stories.
Yeah, right.
And anybody can fall asleep and have a prince kiss them, okay? But turning yourself into a dragon is talent.
It's true.
I always liked Ursula. There was always something about Ursula that just drew me to her, especially with how sarcastic she is. She makes it obvious to Ariel that she knows what she's talking about and that most men are not what Ariel's going to want.
Right. She warns her. Here's the thing with Ursula also. Out of all of the villains, like, Ursula is very blatant about, like, she tells her, if you can't do this, I get to keep your voice and you lose your legs. Like, she's very honest.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't deceive anybody. She's just,
I mean, yeah, she's definitely the villain of the story in the aspect of how the story goes, but she's always just been very interesting to me, especially just because of how funny and honest she is.
I was going to cosplay as her once, and I actually wrote a song to sing. I don't sing, but I wrote a song I was going to sing as Ursula that it was entitled "Without Me, There Wouldn't Be Any Little Mermaid."
That's true.
Like, Ariel wouldn't have fallen in love. Thank you. Where's my thank you?
Right. What do? You run a ship through me. Thanks. Yeah.
I gave you the love of your life. I gave her legs. I mean...
of course, tried to steal the love of her life, but that's another story.
He's cute. Oh. I had answers for all of it. Right, no.
I like it. Yeah. No, all right. Let's share some of your artwork, Ashley. Get that put out here for us, and that way people can start commenting on that. And
so all of Ashley's artwork is for sale. And just do you have the pictures, Larry?
I do. So I do have the pictures.
Okay.
Ashley's going to tell us a little bit about it, or the title of it.
Well, you're going to have to tell me which one you have up, because like I said, my screen's frozen.
Yep, we can do that. So I've actually got Death of a Planet up.
Okay. That one, like I mentioned to you, Larry, the board's a little bit mangled on that one. I do apologize. The name is quite literal. I was trying to paint the different stages of a planet going throughout its life. And it was more just an experiment on how to do that splatter paint than anything else. But I really like the way it came out.
Oh, it's a really cool piece. I do like that a lot. So for those that are watching, we'll be watching later. Death of a Planet. That is, it's $30, and you guys can let us know, and we will get you in touch with Ashley. Next one up is Zombie Corn.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. It is a great one. So Ashley had actually messaged me with the picture of the horse before she adapted it. So, and she was like, "It's too rainbowy. I don't know."
Yeah, I couldn't do it. It was too much. And part of it is I was illustrating my kids' book, and it was just too much cuteness after another. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna make this a zombie unicorn. I have to do something.
Well, I mean, I always encourage children to be a little dark and creepy, and this is perfect because it's got the rainbows too.
It does.
I love it. I think it's awesome. I love that you exposed, the bones and everything. It's just really cool. So.
Well, as I think I told Ashley, when it farts, it does shoot out rainbows, but then it becomes acid rain. So.
Oh my! Seriously, Professor. Seriously.
That's the whole thing, the unicorns fart rainbows, right? Isn't that it?
It would be competition for the Nyan cat, if anybody remembers that thing.
Oh my gosh. No. So Ashley, how much is that one?
That one's also $30. All of those, the painted ones, are on canvas board. They're going to be $30 each.
Which guys, that is a really good deal. If you've checked out art recently, getting an original for that price is amazing. And check out how cool these are. I mean, you could put this in a little kid's room and just to kind of really have a lot of fun. Be that weird uncle that gets the painting to put in the baby's room.
If somebody does put it in a kid's nursery, please send me pictures. I would love that.
But my 9-year-old stepdaughter would love that painting. Like, she's all about. We don't have room in her room anymore for painting because she paints her room. But I literally gave her acrylic paints and said, paint the walls. It's all good. So.
All right.
Okay,
next up is Welcoming Madness.
This one's awesome. I love the dark shadows.
Yes.
That one took a while. The brickwork in the background probably took the longest in that painting.
I can see that. Yeah. Well, it's really interesting, especially where she's looking at you, and is like almost with a smirk. It's like, yeah, here I am, but I'm going to smirk at you while I'm here. So
it's very much like she's actually. I mean, the title is very poignant because it looks like she's welcoming you into her. Like, come into my head. You want to see what's inside my head.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. We got a couple of comments here. Let's throw these up here. Here's Jesse's comment. I remember the Nyan cat. And John says, kitty bat, kitty bat, kitty bat.
He's been trying to get me to read that out loud for so long. It's not even funny.
So, if you guys don't know what kitty bat is, why don't you tell them, Ashley?
Kitty Bat is a children's series that I am writing under a pen name, and I not only wrote the book, but I also illustrated it. It has a ridiculously simple poem. It's targeted at toddlers and preschoolers, although I do have a couple of older children who are in love with the book.
Right.
Everybody, so far, every little kid that has read the book has adored it.
It is really cool. So, and I don't have an image of Kitty Bat. I have to go find one out here, but yeah.
If you give me 2 seconds to get up from my computer, I can actually grab the book and show it to you guys.
That's perfect.
And Jesse says, I love Kitty Bat.
Yep.
Such a cute story. It's just the picture, and what's fun about it, everyone, is Ashley illustrated. Like, that's her picture, like that she did, and it's awesome.
Okay, I'm back, and I do have Kitty Bat. I'm hoping everybody can see that.
Kitty Bat.
And then that's the back cover. So he's got all of his little bat friends.
It's awesome.
You know, it's always good to have bat friends. Just ask Batman.
Yeah, somewhat similar.
I am the darkness. I am the night.
Catwoman had a baby.
See, there you go. That's what their children look like right there.
No, the first time I heard Kitty Bat, I was like, is she doing something with it? What? This is where my geeky mind goes to comic books. It just happens.
No,
it's such a cute story. It's not that. It's not that.
No, it's not. It is definitely geared towards toddlers. It was a poem that I wrote 2 years ago. I wasn't expecting it to get published. It is the direct result of sleep deprivation. And I have mixed feelings about it because I never expected to write a little kid's book. And this can't get any cuter if it wants to.
Oh no, it's very cute. It's adorable. It's an adorable book, but it has, it still has your little dark edge around it. It's a kitty bat. It's not like a rainbow unicorn that's not a skeleton and not a zombie, but you know what I mean? But no, it's a really cute story. And if anybody has children and they want to, help Ashley get some books sold and stuff like that, this is a great one to.
It is.
So.
And it's only $5. I deliberately made the kids' book about as cheap as I could for that specific reason, especially because a lot of my friends, they're not made of money. And
right.
It's a book for toddlers. Okay, it's not like I wrote a full-scale novel.
Well,
it's a poem about a kitty bat. No, it's super cute, guys. And as a mom and a grandma, totally worth it. And like Ashley said, even older children, I know Lex loves it. And she's 9. So, just because it's more geared to younger children, it is a little bit of fun for older children as well. But it is an easy read, and it's a great bedtime story. So,
John has this to say about it. Also, Dark Gatekeeper Gaming donated Kitty Bat to CHKD Children's Hospital for the children who are facing long illnesses. That's very sweet.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to get Kitty Bat donated out to more hospitals. We're in the process of that.
That's awesome.
I mean, my publisher's a one-man show right now, so he doesn't have a lot of time on his hands.
Sure.
But yes, CHKD Hospital in Norfolk did receive free copies of Kitty Bat.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Ashley, if you can get with your editor, and if there's anything that we could do at Geeky Kool to help get some more of these books out to children's hospitals for you guys, like let us know, because I know publishing costs and all of that, because we want them to have the actual books. We want physical copies and stuff like that. But let them know that we're willing to help out with that as well, because I think it's a great story, and it's awesome to have it at children's hospitals.
Definitely. In fact, my dad is also looking to donate towards the shipping costs so that Kitty Bat can get out to more hospitals as well. Particularly, my dad would like to see it at the Children's Hospital in Fargo, North Dakota. So we're hoping, like I said, I haven't heard back from him yet on branching it out, but I also know he's really busy.
Right. Yeah, no, when you do hear back from him, just you can write something on Geeky Kool, but if you would prefer me or Larry to do it, we could do something like that, and I can set up some kind of people can help with getting those things out there. I think that would be great for us to do.
We could put a donation thing on the side.
Yeah.
And we can definitely do that. So, yeah, that's definitely an awesome project. So, yeah.
Well, my publisher is on Twitter. I know Larry's on Twitter. I know you don't check Twitter that much, at least that I've noticed, Larry. But I can definitely get you guys in contact with him through Twitter.
Good.
Perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, I need to be better at that. I just get lost on Twitter sometimes. And what'll happen is it's my ADD. But I will click on one thing, which will lead me to something else, and then before I'm like, I've spent 3 hours and I've not even gotten through 3 things on my list there on Twitter, and I'm like, I don't know. I need a manager for that.
Twitter is a giant rabbit hole. It's just
it certainly is.
I agree. I'm not a huge fan of Twitter myself. I use it for marketing. I use it because I have to for my work. But other than that, Twitter exhausts me.
I'm with you. I feel the same way.
Twitter.
These young kids nowadays.
Yeah. To me, because of my social anxiety, Twitter is very much the digital world's walking into a crowded room for me. It's too much of everybody wanting my attention, and I don't know where to give that attention to. and I get overwhelmed with Twitter. So I, for the longest time, had my Facebook feed just go to Twitter.
Right.
Just link it together. I separated it when there was an incident that I put something on Facebook and it was just for my eyes only. It was I hid it from the rest of the world, and it actually went to Twitter.
Well, and that's what I do with my Facebook. Like, my Facebook is all close family and friends, people that I know or people that have intimate contacts with. Right. So my Facebook page is just for me. My Twitter page, if you compared the two, you wouldn't know who I am on Twitter, because on Twitter, I'm not as political. I have spoken out about a couple of things. I'm not as political. I'm not as funny. I don't put up as many memes. It's just strictly business for me on Twitter.
Sure. Right.
When you're an artist in any ring of the art world, or if you're doing, whatever when it comes to social media and stuff, Twitter is a marketing tool that you have to have. You actually have to have it. Too many people are on it. It's kind of Facebook. Too many people are on it. You have to have one or the other for your art, for your business. You have to, if not both, you have to have one or the other. And Instagram's getting there as well. If you do a lot of things with like art and stuff.
Okay, yeah. I draw the line at Instagram. And here's why. It has nothing to do with the kids. It has nothing to do with Gen Z. I personally am just a very introverted person. I don't like social media at all. Like, I was one of the last people with my friends in high school to even get a Facebook page, because I really didn't see the point of it. I didn't like it. And I think that Instagram would overwhelm me with already having a Facebook and a Twitter page.
So I find, because I'm a visual person, I find going on Instagram a little easier than me going on Twitter, because Twitter's is just words usually. Instagram is just pictures. So it's very an aesthetic thing for me. So I actually prefer Instagram over Twitter if I'm like scrolling through. But I have an Instagram, and I think I don't know, I think I've posted like once last year. Terrible. But, my son's a photographer, and I work in the fashion industry, and I have models and photographers and magazines and all of these things that I've contributed to and helped with or done projects with, and they are all on Instagram. So
yeah, and if somebody's interested in being a social media consultant for Geeky Kool and for Ashley, we are happy to have you come in, and we'll give you tons of credits and props and give really cool things to write on your job applications.
In other words, he won't pay.
But I've been up that hill myself for a while, AJ.
But it's great exposure.
And I don't love that part. If I made any money at all, I would pay everybody.
We know we're just screwing with you.
I know,
Larry. I started joking with Larry about that. I think after John and I sent in the first photos of Tidewater Comic-Con, because he joked and called me Lois Lane. And I was like, well, great. If I'm Lois Lane, where's my paycheck?
No,
Larry is great. Geeky Kool is great. We are not. Everyone who's involved in it, we are doing it because we love it. We love him, and we are all geeky, nerdy people who just enjoy this.
Definitely.
It is not a financially viable business. It's not a business
yet.
Right now, it's not. But I agree with Larry. If there's somebody out there who needs an internship for high school credit or college credit, especially with remote learning and stuff like that, and they want to help us with the social media, we could totally we'll sign whatever papers you need for school that says you did this stuff.
Yep, will.
That's actually a great idea, Larry. I don't know any people in college who would be able to help us out on that, but I'll definitely keep an ear to the ground.
Hey, if you're anybody, and of course, we're always looking for writers and contributors too. So anybody that, if you're a media major and you need some credits, come our way. We're happy to put you to work. So But let's get off of us and back on to Ashley over here.
That's more art.
Yeah, we've got some more art, so let's go ahead and put some more. Before we do that, Jessie does have a question for you, though, Ashley. She wants to know what's your next writing project.
My next writing project, there's no guarantees on this, but it is a podcast script. They were doing open submissions on Twitter. I'm about 3/4 of the way done with the first draft of the script. And it's a really cool story. The podcast itself is kind of like an old school horror radio drama. So think the Twilight Zone.
I am a sucker for like old time radio shows. That's a weird thing. But The Shadow.
Yeah, I know. I love The Shadow too.
Right?
Yeah.
Ashley and I, if we were close, if we lived close, we would be like hanging out all the time.
I agree. Well, the great thing about the old radio shows is what they would use to make the sound effects and the imagery that would pop in your head. Anything from the old Superman radio dramas to
the hard part for me.
Yeah,
that's the hard part for me in writing it is I have to describe everything in the script.
Yeah.
I've never written a script before. This is the first script that I've ever attempted at writing. I like the way it's going, but it was a learning curve.
There's a lot to writing a script.
Yeah, script writing is you have directions for. Like, people think that it's just the dialogue, but it's not. It's every movement that a character does. If it's in a podcast script writing, it's about which words they emphasize, and it's about how you speak of this. Like it's actually a lot more difficult than people think. So, Ashley, good job.
I know. I read your first attempt, and we talked about that for a little bit. And I know you went away from that. Yeah, I liked it, but I can see that. So I'm interested in reading what else you got. So, but let's move on to some art here. Forest Elf at Night.
I know everybody's gonna like that one. I mean,
it's a nice one.
I'm a girl. I mean, that one was definitely eye candy.
It's like shirtless lagoons.
Yeah. Well, even you know me, I'm a very straight guy, but I'm like, oh, that's a very attractive picture. That's really awesome. So.
Right. I love the shadows in the back, like yeah, that's good.
It does look good. Yeah, it's a really cool. Now, this one is this one painted also, Ashley, or is this?
No, that one's one of the sketches.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Are each $15. And I'm much better at sketch art than I am at painting.
It's different, yeah. Painting's always like the consistency of the paint, the strokes of the paintbrush. It's like it's a thing. It's a thing.
It is. And nothing I'm good at with that. So I can't even talk to girls about that. I can listen and admire because I love going and looking at art. Right. I love looking at art. And you guys are awesome. Both of you. I've seen both of your artwork. So, but for me, my art teacher disliked me so much. And again, very small school. Right. And she was the art teacher from kindergarten all the way through high school. And she disliked me pretty early on. I had no artistic ability, nor can I follow directions well. So,
well, that makes for the best artist, though.
It does. I mean,
you would think so.
I never followed directions.
I used to get told all the time, like, we're doing this, and I'm like, but I don't want to do
this. Exactly.
I want to do this, and then I would turn it in, and I would.
I mean, don't feel bad, Larry, because I did not start drawing until I was like 14, 15 years old, and what really got me into drawing and artwork was anime.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad.
I got into drawing really young. I actually had I had an exhibit. They opened a mall here in town when I was young, and they actually wanted an exhibit of young artists, and so I actually had like 12 pieces up at this mall.
That's awesome.
And I think I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I actually sold like I think 4 or 5 of them that night. So
that's cool.
But it was an Alice in Wonderland theme. My teacher wanted it to be like mall themed, and I'm like, no. No, I'm not. I'm not drawing them all. I'm sorry. I would
Well, it's all about the mall and 80s colors, right? So, but she was also the teacher that was the yearbook teacher. And so my entire life I wanted to be a photographer and be in yearbook because in my little town, that was the only place you learned how to do photography.
Right.
And we couldn't afford a nice camera. So that was going to be like this huge experience. And she basically railroaded me out of the class, wouldn't let me in. Because she knew, she knew me from elementary school and didn't like me. So
the photography is an art form, and I've done that too. And
you're good at that.
But photography and painting and drawing totally different. And
I agree.
You're good at that. I've had you here photographing models. You're good at that. So I'm sorry that she did that to you. As a teacher, they should have just been like, try. I wish more teachers when we were growing up, I feel like more of them do it now, but I wish more teachers when we were growing up understood that not all kids are going to be good at all things.
Right.
And we have to try to find what they're good at to get them to like school and go to school, enjoy it.
Right.
I think that's sad, Larry. You make me sad.
Well, don't mean to make you sad. It's just, little small town politics and everything else.
Yeah.
And it's the way it goes. And actually, it's like, small town, like 200,000 people, or and my small town was less than 1,000. So
mine was 7,000.
Yeah.
Mine is about like. Are we talking year round or are we talking the summer tourists? Because I grew up in a tourist town, so big difference in numbers.
I'm just talking year round. I grew up in Branson. We had like millions of visitors every year. But
I grew up in Cape May County, New Jersey, so very similar. We have like 10,000 people year round, and then, but once we get the tourists from New York and Philly, then you get a lot of people.
Yeah. We growing up, I think there was 6,000 or 7,000. I think there's 10,000 to 12,000 now in Branson. But growing up, it was a lot smaller than that. It is now. But
it was, yeah.
Yeah, but we would have like 1 million visitors a year. So
yeah, that's about right. We would have about like 2 million visitors a year because my hometown has the Wildwood Boardwalk, and if you want to look it up online, it's a really huge amusement park on the East Coast.
Right.
It's definitely the star attraction of South Jersey. Although it used to have 3 piers, now it has 2 because unfortunately the hurricane a couple of years ago killed the original pier.
Yeah.
Right. So. All right, let's throw a beetle crack in here for you.
Oh, I love beetle cracking.
Yeah.
That one's really cool.
It is.
Fan, and it's got that like whole,
I love that one. That was actually a test sketch because my dad paid me for a commission, which I'm slowly trying to build up on because I've never done anything like what he wants before. He paid me a commission of $100 for a line sketch of a kraken attacking a ship. Okay, simple enough, except my dad is very detailed. And is very specific and has changed what he wants 3 times by now.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone who's an artist knows that is a thing. If you have commissions, I love commission work, but at the same time, sometimes somebody will say they want something and then you do it and it's not what they want. And so you do again and you do again. I had one commission that I ended up like drawing like 12 things for this person and I only got paid $50. And it took me like a month and a half. And
I mean, my dad's really nice, so that's the benefit. Like, I know who the commission's for. I mean, I'm sure that once I actually sit down and finish it, once I get everything together and all the little details together that I want to do for it, I mean, I'm pretty sure he'll take whatever I send him. But it's been annoying because he called me up at night like twice already, and he's like, no, I want this part of the ship. No, I want that part of the ship. Dad?
Yeah, it's a thing. If you do, it's your dad, so, but if you do a lot of commissions, if you open yourself up to commissions, Ashley, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Have them write everything they want to begin with, and for every time they change the big things they want, tell them there's an extra cost, because the problem is you're going to end up, and this, I have comic book artist friends who do this all the time. Like they do the covers of comic books, and they'll say they'll, $200, $300, whatever dollars. I'm not sure how much a comic book cover goes for, so it could be a lot less, it could be a lot more. But they'll do what they're told that they wanted, and then they'll send it in, and they're like, oh, we scrapped that idea like 5 weeks ago. We're going to do this, and they're in that contract to do that. So put it in a contract, and this is for any artist friends, but Ashley, you're talented enough that I feel like you can get some commissions just, from people. Put it in the contract that if they change what they want, then you add a different fee to that, because so many artist people that I know don't get paid well enough for what they do, especially when you have to do 4 or 5 edits for something. Now,
that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah,
and
your dad's a different story because he's your dad.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, he also wanted a really big commission, and he's given me a month to do it. So I can sit there and I can play around with it a little bit. And like I said, I mean, he's my dad. He's probably going to end up getting 2 sketches anyway.
Right. So how much sketch we just saw?
All of the sketches are $15.
$15.
Yep.
So how much to add in the anime girl into the tentacles?
Larry, if you want,
Just teasing.
Well, no, I was gonna say if you want, you can message me about that, and I can definitely.
Yes. Make sure she's a redhead.
Well, yeah, right. Oh gosh.
No. You guys don't realize he actually probably will message her after that.
Probably will.
You didn't know what you were going to get into with me and Ashley on this.
I know exactly what I'm going to get into. He's going to be exactly like my dad. I'm going to do the base sketch and everything. He's going to be like, I wanted it at a different angle. I'm gonna reach through the computer and just smack him on the head with the sketchbook and go, no.
Well, you know how to do that, yeah. Actually, I'm one of those guys. I'm like, ooh, you're gonna make something for me. I'm excited. I'll just see what you make. So
just love it. He would just
that's really me. So yeah. And the last one we got is the Forest God, which is a really cool image there.
That one took a long time.
That
one took a very long time.
You're getting the deer angle just perfect there. That's really cool. So yeah.
Is that pen and ink, or is that like ink, or is that
that's actually mechanical pencil that's been inked over, which is usually what most of my sketches are. The first one, which was Forest Elf at Night, is actually marker. So that's marker with pen and pencil.
Yeah, most people, like when you do sketches, like most people should know that most artists start with a pencil and then they go over it. But no, that's really cool. I love your shading with ink. Like that's an impressive thing to do. Do you get the smudges on your hair?
What? I could not hear you.
Oh, the smudges on your hands, like
yes. And I'm a lefty, so I get what's called Silver Surfer syndrome, which is when your entire hand gets covered in either pencil lead or ink, and it's literally the entire just blade of your hand when you're done.
Yeah. No, it's a thing. No matter how nice and neat you think you're going at it, and you're getting in there, and then you look at it, and it's like this: the whole side of your hand is just black, and you're like, oh yeah.
So here's another weird story from my childhood. I'm a lefty, and I, all through a baseball left-handed, bat left-handed, anything power left-handed, and my kindergarten year, I would hold my pencil left-handed. Then I got to first grade, and right before I went to first grade, I fell and broke my left arm. So my teacher wanted me to use my right hand. But when I write like a lefty. So I write right-handed, but like a lefty. So I smudge it, and people are like, that is the weirdest writing I've ever seen. Yeah, I know.
Professor.
What's funny, Larry, is my dad, he refused to let the teachers make me right-handed because that's what they wanted to do.
Right.
I mean, I was in preschool and kindergarten in the early 90s, and they asked my parents, like, well, do you want us to make her right-handed? And my dad, he was appalled because he grew up in Boston, and he had Catholic school teachers who didn't give anybody a choice.
Right.
So all of that fear came rushing back to me. He was like, no, leave my daughter alone. But she's a lefty. I don't care. Leave her alone.
I don't understand it's like the writing that you were talking about, like your teacher saying, you know, like, you're a good writer, but these, you know, I don't understand this way of thinking that was so predominant in the history of the United States, of that you must have your child conform. My sister, I remember, my sister's a lefty. I think my brother might be too. I'm not. But I remember my sister coming home crying, like in kindergarten, because her teacher told her she needed to learn to write with her right hand because it was weird and she wasn't normal. And I'm like, it's a child.
Right.
You can't help which side of the brain. That's not your choice. It's not like you go, you know what? I have a baby.
I mean, I'm glad my dad refused them.
Yeah.
But the funny fact is I'm semi-ambidextrous. What I mean by that is certain tasks, not writing. When I write with my left hand. When I write or draw, if I'm holding a pencil, it's going to be my left hand. But certain sports, like baseball, like you were mentioning, Larry, I will pitch left-handed. I will bat like a righty, and I don't know why.
Well, that's the opposite of what you want to do. Because you want to be the left-handed batter. I mean, that's...
I cannot bat left-handed, and it's so bizarre. Like, my dad thought it was the weirdest thing, and he tried to get me to change that when he was training me to try out for the baseball team, and he just couldn't break me of it. And he was like, Ashley, why are you standing like that? You're standing like you're right-handed. And he actually pitched it to me left-handed to try and see what was going on. I couldn't even hit the ball. But right-handed, I was great.
Well, there you go.
I mean, basketball, any sport, I will do with my right hand.
Interesting.
I cannot explain it.
Sports.
Well, I was never good at sports. I played, but my father's dream of me being the left-handed pitcher or the left-handed batter to, play for the Cardinals, that failed very early on. So.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Larry, I wasn't even allowed to be on the baseball team because I was a girl. So.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's not conform in our children. Let's let them figure out what they want to do. I'm so frustrated with, like, the stories Larry has told. I just want to, scream. I want to go back in time and scream at these people.
I was so excited too. Like, my dad, he trained me up for a month. He was like, you really want to be on the boys baseball team? Yeah, Dad, I hate softball. And I did. Like, I did not like softball. I just was not a softball player. I was always a baseball player. And I got that from my dad. And he was like, okay, fine. I will teach you how to play baseball. And I worked with him for a good 2 months before the tryouts. I wasn't even allowed to try out. My coach stopped me and he told me that because I was a girl, I wouldn't be able to try out on the boys baseball team.
And nowadays that would be a loss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as it should be.
Unfortunately, this was the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
I remember a girl in high school. Now, she wasn't at our school. She was at a different school. But she was on the football team for one of the local schools that played against us. And she was tough. Some of the guys had to put away their pride when she would lick them hard with a tackle. And they're like, what just happened? And I'm like, hey, if she can do it and she wants to play, great. I don't understand that mentality. I never have. But I also grew up with my mom having 7 sisters and 1 brother and, all these females in my life. So I've always been like, well, they can do whatever they want. If they can compete, let them compete. Let them do whatever. If they want to play football, play football. If you want to cheerlead. Whatever you want to do. Don't care. Just do it.
Well, guys, my phone just went boop. I told you I haven't got it to charge all the way because I got down electricity partially today. It says that I'm down to 5%. So I'm going to get off here and let you guys wrap it up.
Okay, that sounds great.
Good.
Thanks, AJ.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, AJ.
Bye.
So we've shown you guys the, and I did want to ask her. I'll have to ask her later. I want to know her shirt because she was wearing a Breakfast Club shirt, and I'll ask about your shirt here in a moment. But the Breakfast Club, because I wanted to know if her shirt was pre or post Madonna, because Madonna was a member of the Breakfast Club. She was the drummer for that band before she went solo. So just curious if which group of the Breakfast Club her shirt was for. So. Yeah, that's either here or there. I'm just talking now. So, but tell us about your shirt, Ashley.
Oh, see, that's why I was kind of confused. And I kind of looked down at my own shirt when you said that. I'm actually wearing a Vincent Price shirt, and it is in homage to, what movie? House on Haunted Hill.
Yes. So as you know, AJ is a huge Vincent Price fan. I like Vincent Price a lot, but she's a huge fan also. So. I don't know if she caught that, so I'm sure she'll be watching this later. So I'm sure she'll be like, "Oh my gosh!" So I knew you were going to wear a special shirt, so I wanted to ask about yours, but I wanted to ask about hers before she left, but I missed it. So, all right. So for our people that are watching, we haven't had a lot of comments other than by certain people, and that's perfectly fine. But if you want to get one of Ashley's free books, go ahead and comment. I know some people will be watching this after the live. They'll go out to YouTube or go out to Geeky KOOL and watch this. So we want your guys' comments because we want to be able to pick from a group. So let's give them some days to do that, Ashley, and then we'll get you a list of winners there to give your book away for, if that's all right.
Sounds good to me.
And we don't have anybody that's commented yet on specific art, but we're going to keep talking about this and make sure that's in front of people so they can see what the great art is that you've got. John did make a comment here, so it's kind of a funny comment. Said, make sure it comes in a brown paper bag wrapper and stays hidden from Larry's wife and kids. About the cynical thing, I think so. And that was just a joke. Wasn't serious about it. I just know that's often a thing used in certain types of anime.
Yes, it is.
Which I don't understand, but I don't know.
I've never understood it either myself. I'm just going to leave that one with, you know what, different things for different people.
Exactly. We'll move along from that. I just thought it'd be a funny thing to say. So talked about your project coming up for the podcast. Anything else that's coming in line? I know you've got a publisher, so he's going to keep you busy with things coming up in the future.
Yes. Well, my first book, Lament of Midnight, officially has a sequel. Everything has been sent in for that. We're just waiting on the cover art to get done.
All right. Are you doing the cover art again?
No, I am not. No, this is going to be done by a professional artist. I'm kind of kicking myself because I know that if I had done the cover art, it would be out by now. But at the same time, I have mixed feelings about the cover art for the first Lament of Midnight because it doesn't look as good as it could have been.
I really thought it was a cool cover, so I don't know. I know when I talked to AJ about the book, that was one of the things she commented on. Also was how cool the cover was. So, but you know, you got to do what you like for your book because it has to express what you're wanting it to. Unlike comic book covers, which just kind of could be random. Because that's often what they are.
Well, to be fair, and this is one of the downsides of having a publisher, if anybody is thinking of getting into the professional writing world, is sometimes, how do I put this? It's kind of like a political debate between you and your publisher. He's going to have different ideas. You're going to have different ideas. So that was another reason why I didn't want to draw the cover of the second book, because I did not expect Lament of Midnight to be so well revered. I wrote it to just get it out of my system and get it out there. Now it's going to have 3 different books. And I'm halfway through the third book.
That's awesome. Sometimes they grow beyond what our expectations are. I understand the whole wanting to get it out there thing because that's how I am as a writer. When I get most inspired when I've got something just boiling in me that I just have to get out and spend all that time doing it. So I get that, but Lament of Midnight is an amazing book for anybody who's not checked it out. And again, there's links down below, so you have no excuse not to go check it out, guys. And I'm happy to lend out my copy if people that know me personally. But if you borrow the copy and like it, you have to go buy your own. That's the rule. So, but all right, Ashley. Anything else we can talk about tonight? Anything else you want to talk? We can talk about John for a while if we want. Or
well, I do have one more book that I have been writing for a year. It's almost at 30,000 words.
Wow.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
And it's definitely not for the faint of heart. It's not really horror. It's more of a crime drama.
Mm-hmm.
And I've written it for a purpose. And my purpose was hopefully to bring light to the sex trafficking crisis here in America.
Yes.
And that was my main goal with it. I'm happy that it's almost finished.
Yeah. But
it was definitely a hard write. To date, that was the hardest thing that I've ever worked on.
And what is that expected to? I know you're almost done with it, so will it be a few months out before it's ready to publish, or?
Yes, most likely. It will probably be a couple of months before it hits drive-through fiction. I do know that my publisher, Dark Gatekeeper Gaming, he's been with me on that book for the very beginning. As soon as I mentioned it and started writing it, he really wanted it. So that's the good news, especially because of how hard it is to market.
Right.
It's not an easy book to market. I mean, most publishers, they will go through the first or second chapter and say, no, we're not doing this.
Right.
Like,
right.
This is too much for us. We're not opening this can of worms.
Well, and for people that don't know much about the whole sex trafficking thing, tell us about that. I actually am very familiar with that, unfortunately, but there's a lot of people that have those blinders on that don't really know what's really going on out there.
It's very dark. I'm only going to go through a few topics and issues on it because it's just so deep. But it is the single largest black market in America.
Yep.
The single largest sex trade in the U.S. are like the national sporting events, the baseball World Series, the football is really the big one. The Super Bowl is the largest black market sex trade in America. And it's the estimate, and this is not an official estimate, this is just the gross estimate, is that half of all strip clubs in America are really illegal brothels. It's much bigger than people think it is. And it's also, I hate to put it this way, but it is right next door. It's not something that people can ignore once you realize what's going on.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah, that's, and for people that don't know, it's not like it's a career where people are volunteering to get into it. It's one of those things where usually there are women that definitely get into the stripping and everything else, and there's good reasons for that. But as far as the sex trade, and especially the black market part of that, that's usually, people are using drugs and using alcohol and just taking people off the street sometimes.
Exactly. And that's, one of the biggest ways is that these people, usually teenagers, both boys and girls, get into sex trafficking is like they'll answer an ad on Craigslist saying, looking for models.
Right.
Yeah. And then they're gone. And nobody knows what happened to them. And they're just moved across the country.
And a lot of times kept drugged so they can't complain. They can't voice what's going on. Even to the point where sometimes they get moved out of country to other countries where this is a lot more legal or a lot less. And
that is a big issue where my dad lives near the Canadian border, is that they will ship teenagers across the border because it's so much harder for American officials to track these kids once they leave the border and once they get into Canada. Now, I'm not dissing Canada because Canada is doing everything they can against this too. I'm just saying that there is a huge amount of bureaucracy and paperwork involved in catching these people, and that gives them an advantage.
Which is extremely sad. So that is a huge sad thing, and for anybody who's thinking about answering those ads or running away, think twice. I mean, I know home life can be really awful, but there's some really bad people out there wanting to do some really bad things and to use you for their financial gain while basically messing you over and using you. And most of the time those kids end up dead within just a few years. So.
I mean, unfortunately, if they don't end up dead, they usually end up in jail for prostitution sentences. That's no fault of their own. And that was one of the highlights of my book is there's really no happy ending, and the main character ends up in prison.
Right.
Because she killed her pimp? Like, how is that fair?
Right.
That's not fair at all, but it happens.
No, it does. It does. It's a very sad situation we're in, and it's one of those things where we close our eyes about it. And the interesting thing about this is, I've got friends both on the extreme left side of politics to the extreme right side of politics that they may disagree with each other on everything, but you start talking about sex trafficking and they're allies. They want to come together because you're seeing it through all scopes of politics that this is something we've been ignoring, and this is something we need to speak out about and start doing some things. And so it really makes some really interesting allies with people that may not agree on a whole lot, but they can see this as an evil in society that's going on. So,
and that was part of my book, was to just shed light on it. Obviously, my book is a work of fiction. There are definitely fictionalized parts to it. It's not a biography. It's not based off of a real person, but the events in the book are very realistic in what is going on in this black market. Yeah.
Well, it's a very sad thing with society, and those kids you see on the milk cartons may very well be involved with that. So thanks for writing that, because I know that is not an easy subject to broach. I've actually have a plan to broach that in one of my novels, but in a very lighter way of broaching it. But
I went as dark as possible just to get it out.
You do. I know you do, but when you're talking a steampunk thing set in the 1880s, you kind of got to go a little different. So that's my whole idea. But my steampunk captain, that's what she is basically fighting against is that whole thing, and it's commentary on society, unfortunately. So I've got it all planned here. I got to get it typed out. I've got to get it done.
That's always the hardest part.
It is. So, well, thank you, Ashley, so much for joining us. So appreciate it. I love that you came on and read for us and shared your stuff. I know there's going to be some happy people once everybody gets watching this, and I know that a lot of my viewers may be having problems with internet and with power right now because of rolling blackouts in the Midwest that's going on right now. So I know we'll have some more comments and people very interested in getting a copy of that book. So I look forward to giving you a couple people to be able to give that to. So that's exciting. I don't have it listed here, but again, in the video is a link over to
Drive-Thru-Fiction, yes. Drive-Thru-Fiction.com.
So that's where you guys can pick up all of Ashley's books and check those out. And again, if you need to preview one, I'm happy to share. So, but again, if you like it, you have to buy it.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned previewing it, because most of the books do have a preview section on the website where you can check out the first couple of pages.
See, there you go, people. There is no excuses not to check this out and be buying. And these books on Drive-Thru-Fiction are not your $30 books. These are books that you can afford to go out and spend a little money on. It's not super expensive to buy these books, so check those out, because you definitely will be getting yourself a gift. And then you can gift other people them. It's a great thing for late Valentine's Day gifts. Like I said, to kind of get that romance going with a little scary, or whatever. All right. So let me give some shout outs to some other people doing similar podcasts and stuff like what we are. because we always like to give our friends some shout outs here.
Mhm.
We've got the Nerd Informants. They're down in Branson with AJ, and we got Josh and Tim over there. Those guys are phenomenal. They keep track of all of current events and usually are posting stuff faster than I can. And they have their own podcast, and they are movie experts, and so they love watching movies. And they once movie theaters really start back up, they will be bringing all sorts of reviews there. So you guys need to check them out. We got Keith and Gary over Pop Culture Minefield. Again, this is a more adult theme show because Gary doesn't know how not to curse constantly. But we do love these guys. Keith is on our show a lot with us, and Gary's a phenomenal guy. And but we do suggest you for age 14 or above to watch the show, because by then you've heard all the words, you know what they mean, and you may get slapped by your mom if you repeat them. So we also have our partner Scallywag Productions, and they're putting out new videos every week. It's 5 times a week. In fact, AJ is on there with Spoo 2 times a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So guys, check those out. You won't regret it. There's a lot to watch there. And of course, GeekyKOOL.com, where we are at, and where this show will find itself on there, along with all sorts of other news and videos and everything else. So thank you guys for watching today. We do appreciate it. Have yourself a great week. Stay warm out there if you're in the Midwest or in the South, like Texas and Missouri and all of us, because it's cold and it's snowing and it's crazy. And, in a strange way, this is the weather you're used to, Ashley. And here we've got it down here.
So. Well, being in Virginia, it has been nothing but rain where I'm at in South Virginia for like 3 weeks now.
Yeah, and we've not had the amount of snow that I thought we might get, because I remember huge snows when I was younger, even 20 years ago, where we'd get 15, 18 inches every once in a while, usually in March, but we'd get these big snows. We haven't had that in a long time, but it is frigid cold like I can't remember. It's in the negatives. It started off at -9 and -18 until this morning.
I won't make you upset by telling you what the temperature is where I'm at.
Yeah, but you're used to these cold ones, so you're like, suck it up, Buttercup. Get over it.
I mean, well, that depends. Like I like many on Twitter, I was very angry about the photos of people in Texas and in Missouri who are living in places that are going to collapse. And as someone who is used to snow, that's an issue. I mean, that's no joke. But I mean, at the same time, I did laugh a little bit at the politicians who didn't know what they were doing, and it's like, come on, guys, you're dealing with 2 inches.
right, exactly. So in Missouri, we know how to deal with that. We deal with 6 inches pretty frequently, at least once or twice a year. We've got the salt trucks and the plow trucks. We know how to get those out. We know how to drive in snow typically. It may not be, but now the frigid cold is something we're not used to. Yeah. But our friends there in Texas, they have no clue. It's funny because Dallas gets snow every 3 or 4 years, but you're talking all the way down to Houston, who's like, what is this white stuff and why is it doing this?
I mean, as a New Englander, like I said, I am definitely used to the cold.
Right.
But even I'll admit that this is unusual.
It is. It's kind of crazy. So, but I know all of our friends will be checking us out and watching us. But stay warm out there, guys, and stay dry out there, Ashley, because we're so worried about all that rain you're getting. So.
Well, actually, I mean, now that you mentioned it, is a little bit of an issue because we've been getting
some flooding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
that is never good when you're getting flooding like that, because
it doesn't help that I live on the beach.
So far, you're not breaking my heart here, living on the beach. Yeah, I've got to drive like 2,000 miles to see a beach.
Well, I apologize that you live in a landlocked state, Larry. I can't do anything about that.
I was born here. What do you want? Keep trying to move away, but
I mean, I come from a coasty family. I'm a coasty brat, so by default, I was always near water.
Yeah, we have things called ponds. That's, lakes every once in a while.
Nothing that the Coast Guard would be interested in.
No, we do have lakes that are big enough. We do have Coast Guard do stuff, but it's not the same. I've gone to the beaches at the lakes. That's not the same as going to the ocean. Same. No, I love the ocean. I love visiting the ocean, but yeah. Anyway. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Ashley. And, you're welcome on here anytime. Anytime you want something, you want to come on and talk anything. Doesn't have to be about your writing, but you're always welcome to come on and tell us what you're doing, and we can do some more readings, so whatever. But you're always welcome. You and John both are always welcome. So come on and join us anytime.
I thank you, and you guys will definitely see me again. I thank both you and AJ for allowing me to come on tonight. I know, especially with AJ was having so many issues.
Yeah, with her power on and off all day long. Yeah, it was crazy, but I'm glad she was able to make it. So, all right, we'll talk to you guys later. Have a great night. Stay geeky, guys.